secret sauce is press the button, was nervous as anything, and match the agency's performance in the first 4 weeks. It's never been easier to scale organic social. Day one, I would be just building organic social like crazy, and I wouldn't be over leveraging myself on other parts of the business so that I could just build that.
Let's talk about the content pillars, how you set them up, the strategy behind them, what an example of an ad creative could be under one of those.
The purpose behind the content engine that we call it, and the content pillars is there was times where I was like, fuck man, this is as hard as it's ever been. I was never had anxiety, never had stress before, like crippling pain before from, mental stress. And this year I felt like I've been in that for a long time. You think you're at this new level now, and you're actually at the bottom of that new level, which is right on the existing level that you've just gone past. And then you will wake up in 12 months' time and you will have changed. And I actually try to visualize myself in that 12-month moment, 18-month moment, spend time there and actually feel what it's like there. Look in the details of that moment.
All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of my podcast with Adam Bouris, the CEO of Who is Elijah. It is the last and final podcast for 2024. So thank you guys for an epic year. The podcast has grown so much. All the messages I've got, all the reviews, everything that's happened this year. I can't thank you guys, our community, our listeners enough. It's truly been a heartwarming experience for me to see what this podcast has grown into. So thank you. This is a massive part 2. We dive into, I had a lot of questions about this the last time we had Adam and Raquel on. This episode, part 2, from the beginning, we break down the content pillars, what they look like and how you can structure your own content engine like Adam so you can achieve a $3.8 million Black Friday sale just like they did. We really break down the strategy and how that helps you scale your meta ad. So we'll get into it in a second. For one last time for the year, guys, can I get you to do me a few favors? If you're watching on YouTube, could you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? We have massive plans for the podcast next year. We're only going to take it to another level. And for everyone listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, could you please leave me a 5-star review? I really, really appreciate it. As you can say, it's been a long year. I'm stumbling over my words. So I'll get into the podcast. Massive thank you again. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the content pillars because as I said, I've had heaps of questions about them. Yeah. Everyone's like, so what does he mean? Like, can you give me some examples? I'd love if you could break down just like, what are some of the content pillars? Like give us some examples of the content pillars, how you set them up, the strategy behind them, and then some just maybe examples of what an example of a piece of an ad creative could be under one of those.
Yeah, I'll do Ocean Eyes because you can clip some of the Ocean Eyes content that we've got out there, right? So the strategy behind the purpose behind a content engine that we call it and the content pillars is purely to see how many different creative variables you could imagine to create for each product that you have, because you'll find your best selling product more than likely has the most creative behind it, because that's why it's selling the most. It might be because it's the best product, but it's because it's probably got the most amount of creative behind it. So the content pillars that we create is what is this, and the pillar is probably, you should change it to like content style. Yeah. So there's product based, like an Ecom imagery that's like on your website. Then there's a lifestyle version of it. So if we think about, I'll do Ocean Eyes as an example. Ocean Eyes, we have obviously four different sizes of Ocean Eyes in the SKU. But from like a fragrance perspective, Ocean Eyes, we have Ecom imagery, we have lifestyle imagery as a content pillar, content style. We have CGI, the big blow up on the beach, which we've spoken about. We have like campaign shoot. We did this shoot with this guy in the bathroom, in the shower, like really high resolution campaign shoot. We do ingredients as a pillar. And I think there's one more, flat lay maybe, lifestyle flat lay. So you list those things out. And look, you could just use those ones that I've just told you because they resonate for everywhere. And we then look at what content we have available for us now in those styles for Ocean Eyes. Well, we've only got the one CGI thing that blew up for us. We haven't done anything else. And now that's burnt out and everyone's seen it because every podcast has put it on their thing. And we've done that now. So we need to do lifestyle ingredients, campaign shoots, all of that. And then when you stack that up with every product that you have, you realize you probably have a lot of gaps in creative that you have not made yet for that product. So it gives you both two things happen. You go, oh, fuck, there's a lot of creative I need to make.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, holy shit, there's a lot of opportunity because of this creative I have not made yet.
Because like you said, it's a little bit of the chicken or the egg. Maybe it is the best product, or have you just created the best, most content for it? And look, I'd say majority of the time you'll be able to identify your best products, but you're missing out how much extra juice can we squeeze out of the other ones just by creating the same level of content for them. So there's going to be gaps where you can increase. Because like where I wanted to go with this as well is a lot of brands I speak to that are relatively early stage or, starting to get some good consistency, but like not nowhere at your level, and they can achieve, I'm sure you've heard all the stories. They have a good ROAS or a good CPA. And then as soon as they try to scale, things start to collapse, right? What are some of the strategies that brands can use to actually enable them to scale? Obviously, like horizontal scaling with new content styles or content pillars is one way, because we're testing out a brand new style. We're probably going to appeal to different sorts of people. But how would you approach that? You're someone who's gone in and spent a year of your life dedicated to Facebook ads. So you're probably one of the best people I could speak to about it.
Yeah. I think like when you're scaling from $300 a day and $100 a day in spend, right? And you want to go, you're making $500 a day in revenue, 20% of your spend, right? Mathematically, you say to yourself, well, if I just spend $300 a day, then I'll make $1,000 a day, right? Or $1,200 a day. And it mathematically makes sense, right? And
if only it was that simple.
If only it was that simple, everyone would be millionaires, right? And when you think that and you do it and you go, okay, let's just increase the spend, you'll find that your cost per acquisition goes through the roof and your frequency, which means how many times people see your content, goes right up. And you reach a certain amount of people because you hit that spend limit where Facebook's going to say, okay, you're going to spend more. We're only going to show it to this amount of people. And these people get over it very quickly. So your cost per acquisition goes from $12 to $40. And you're like, what the hell? So the way to fix that is by producing more creative and to do more campaigns. So campaigns being Advantage Plus, obviously everyone knows how to do that. It's pretty easy. Or if you're doing manually created interest campaigns simultaneously as an Advantage Plus at that level of $300 a day, you should have one Advantage Plus for your top of funnel. You should have at least one manually created interest campaign, which is like, I'm going to send this to new people. And how you get new people, if we're going to the weeds, you actually exclude your existing customer base in the setup. So once you've excluded them, and then you create different interest groups. So, it might be that we're going to target a group of people that they like going to the beach, they like Range Rovers, they like Rolexes, they like these things. And you can literally pick those things and create these groups of people. And then Facebook will grab that and they will send it to those people. And you just need to create. If you think that group of people are the ones that are going to buy your product, you just need to show them more product, more creative, more ideas, more versions of who you are as a brand and what you stand for.
And is the content, if you're going to create 3 new customer segments, are you sending them all the same content?
Yes.
All the same content. And something that is sort of hotly debated a little bit, and hotly debated, different things work for different brands. Is that a strategy with some detailed targeting with campaigns with some broad targeting and some Advantage Plus? Is that how Who is Elijah model works? Like what sort of split between the style of campaigns do you guys mainly focus on?
At the start of this year, before we leaned into the content pillars and the engine, we were pretty much the assets that we would have in the advertising were at every level of the funnel. They were top, bottom, mid, and it's like, which one's performing best? Do more of that in that campaign. Maybe this one's performing better at the bottom of funnel, so do more of that. It's not performing in top of funnel, So turn it off
Kill that there,
and add something else in. So once they all go in, and all agencies and even Jay's community e-commerce equation, they'll tell you this as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you start.
Yep.
For us now, again, we're out of e-commerce equation with agency now. We sort of really break down our ad sets into a product level, right? So we have like Nomad, here's all of it. We're breaking it right down now at a product level to the manual groups, so that we can really just track better that Nomads works for this group, or Ocean Eyes works for this group, or we can really like see that clearly.
Yeah. So
then obviously we're feeding Nomad content engine stuff into Nomad stuff, obviously, right? We don't put it where the other stuff is.
Yeah.
But, we still, if we step back for a sec and people think, and I used to think this too, if we're going after new customers, should we not be just sending brand content and, who we are and the discovery set to these people? And that's what we did for ages. And yes, these people need to see brand and who you are, but you can still send them full-size product pictures.
Yeah.
Because the old way of thinking is, you only need to interest them, and then you need to move them down the funnel. And again, for people listening, I used to think, how the fuck do you move someone down the funnel? Like, how do you do that? And you just visualize that stupid upside down pyramid. And you're like, well, how do you move them? And now I know.
Yeah.
They move down themselves when obviously they engage in your Instagram. They follow you on Instagram. You sign them up to, subscription to your newsletter or whatever it is. That's now they go into the middle of the funnel because they've taken action. They haven't purchased from you yet, but they're more heightened than someone who's never seen you before.
Yeah.
And then how do you move them to your bottom of funnel? Like how do you get them there? And they get there because they make a purchase, or they're a highly targeted group of people. And then Meta's really spending money down at those people.
Yeah.
For us, we don't really advertise, and you shouldn't really, to your bottom of funnel, right? These are your existing customers. If you were to just step out for a second, you're like, well, what is Meta for? It's for finding new customers. And your Instagram, which your existing customers already follow you on, is where you can communicate to these people. Email is where you can send these people emails. And Facebook and Meta and all these things should be about how do we scale our top of funnel activities so that we can just spend money on new customers. Because otherwise you're spending cost of acquisition on existing customers. And to sort of, when you say it out loud, it's like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
But it's obviously hard because there's a lot of people doing it and you're competing with lots of people.
So let me just clarify this to make sure I'm understanding because there'll be heaps of people listening that'll be taking notes and trying to actually implement these things. So if you're spending say $1, $2, $3, maybe up to $500 a day, you're profitable. What we want to do to scale is, like you said, new styles of content, different content pillars around each product.
Yep.
Then we're going to separate it into 3 types of campaigns. We'll have your Advantage Plus, obviously. We'll have some interest-based targeting. And what was the third one? Was there another?
That's it for top of funnel.
Top of funnel,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then middle of funnel, obviously, is your existing Instagram followers that you can put into Meta.
Yeah.
Your subscribed, they're probably not middle, but middle would be followers.
Yeah.
Website traffic last 180 days, things like that. And then bottom would be your subscribed emailers and purchased 180 days. Just to keep it simple, that's what it would be.
And then as they start to progress from that stage into more of the Who is Elijah land, what sort of signals are they looking out for? And then when you're ready, what changes do you make as you go to that next level?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be much faster to make these jumps from these levels. And it just doesn't happen quickly.
It's a really good lesson. And I think a lot of people need to hear it and recalibrate some expectations.
Yeah. I don't think you think, okay, again, because you're like, oh, just spend more.
Yeah.
You just budget up, right? And again, you'll find the same things happen. It just burns out. You need to rethink. You think you're at this new level now, and you're actually at the bottom of that new level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is right on the existing level that you've just gone past. You're no further away than where you were, if you think about that, right?
Yeah, that's a really good way to break it down.
Yeah. So it's as the brand builds out through a lot of social I think social organic is like the main thing here that really grows these audiences. And if you're trying to grow your middle of funnel and your top of funnel, your middle of funnel, which is your Instagram followers and your website visits, like this happens from organic social, right? So advertising is not going to solve this problem. You just put more money in and you could get to new people. But what we did anyway, and it does not for everyone, but what we did, we obviously focused heavily on organic social to build out the following, to build the brand. We did a lot of out of home stuff. Obviously the big Ocean Eyes video that got 40,000.
How many
people.
followers? Yeah, that's
so
it.
40,000 people come into that middle of funnel over 2 weeks. Now you have a bigger middle of funnel, right?
Yeah.
Facebook knows that. Obviously you can do lookalike audiences.
Do you still use many lookalikes as we move into 2025? You think they're as relevant as they used to be?
The agency we use, they use them at times, not all the time.
Yeah.
But they did use them through Black Friday.
Yeah.
And Ecom Nation, they're very good. I trust them. Ball's agency.
Yeah.
But they're very good. So I back them on it.
And do you use any third-party attribution tools like a Triple Whale, Blot Out, anything like that?
I was hoping that you would bring this up, right? Because this is my current biggest thought process at the moment. It's like for people that are $100 a day in spend, even people that are $1,000 a day in spend, and I was one of these not that long ago. You think that your Shopify website, Facebook is all you need. You got your advertising channels, Google, Facebook, TikTok, plus your website, plus Klaviyo, right? But what I start to realize is there's so many missed events that happens from advertising, people coming to your website, how they interact, what Facebook does with those people, how Shopify segments those people to Klaviyo. And there's so much missed actions in there. So Triple Whale is for correct attribution, correct allocation of advertising spend to the individual sale. So Triple Whale, you install their Triple Whale pixel onto your website. You connect it up. Basically, it will do a much better job of tracking people that come to your website and allocating them to your email lists and allocating them to your 180 days visits to your Facebook. It's a much better way to get a more holistic view of who's on your website and how to remarket to them. So then we use that, which we only had for a few months. It's good.
Did you realize the difference in reporting? Was much being missed?
A lot was being missed. Yeah. So then we use also instant audiences, which feels like relatively new, but it's been around for a while. And what Instant does is it can track a user to your website that you don't know yet. It knows them and allocates them email address, name, everything to a unsubscribed folder in your emails, right? So you don't know this user. Now you know them.
Yeah.
And I'm on the fence about advertising to them because they've not consent. There's no consent there. But what they also do is they do the same thing for Meta, and they can track different people properly and send it back to Meta to get much more detailed understanding of the volume of people coming through your site.
Yeah.
So Triple Whale for its pixel ability in Shopify. Instant for tracking people and who they are and how to like actually remarket to them properly. And now, only today, which I'm brand new on, so don't judge me on it yet, but it's Blot Out. You said it.
Yeah.
So setting up with them, because that's like how to own your actual first party data. But the main thing that people get from this is, so Shopify will hold an add to cart. Someone adds to cart.
Yep.
Shopify will keep it held and tell you that it's an add to cart for 14 days. After the 14 days, it's deleted and it's gone. If this person, obviously people don't go back to the site every 2 weeks to update their add to cart, right? Blot Out will capture the data and hold it for you because it's your own data. And they'll keep it stored for you so that you can use that correct add to cart volumes in emails.
So Blot Out and Triple Way will actually work together.
Interesting. They
Cool.
work together. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sold on Instant yet. And there's debate about it.
Yeah.
They're a big company that make hundreds of millions, good on them.
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sold that you can identify a user that's not subscribed and consent and then email them. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do to me. So there might be more to it, but that's how I feel about it. And as you said, Blot Out it's really owning your first party data and storing it for yourself.
You mentioned certain like spends, $1,000 a day and whatnot. When do you think, at what level of spend do you think there's a right point to start investing in these sorts of software? Just a quick one from me. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'd know that after scaling Happy Skin Co. to over $10 million per year, I spent close to 18 months creating the Viral Brand Builder program, which teaches someone with zero experience how to launch and scale their very own e-commerce brand. With over 100 training videos and direct access to me, including one-on-one calls, you'll be guided throughout the entire process. Now, we already have a bunch of incredible results from students that are making multiple 5 and 6 figures per month. So if you want to learn how to build a business that has the potential to completely change your life, then click the link in the description and book in an application call today. Spots are limited as you'll be speaking directly to me. So hopefully I'll chat to some of you soon. But until then, let's get back to the podcast.
I was always thinking about the gaps, right? And I only feel today and, the end of this year that I've now got the right tech set up. When do I think you need it? I don't think you should go and implement these 3 things straight away. What I would do is go and reach out to all of these guys, get the demos, and just be very specific with them about your company.
Yeah.
And ask them to tell you how it's going to help. Don't think it's going to help, but you also need to actually understand it. Because I can tell you to go and get Instant. You could say, Adam said it. I don't understand it, but fuck, Adam's right. And you could connect it up and you don't even know what it does. So like if it works, you don't know if it's work, you don't know if it's real, you don't know what it is. And you have to be really obsessed about this tech if you're a tech person like me.
Yeah.
And you love the idea of growth through these 1%ers, because it's what it is. It's not again, this is something that I used to think, well, what if we just turn on one of these platforms and we'll be rich? We'll get all these extra orders. Doesn't happen like that. It's a long game. I take a much longer approach now with these tech setups.
Speaking of tech and your tech stack, what's some of the most impactful ways that you use AI, whether it be in your personal life or with Who is Elijah?
I'm sort of waiting for, I think we use it now without actually knowing that we're using it. I don't use it in my daily life. I don't have like this automatic calendar that sets my life for me.
Yeah.
I don't have.
We've all seen those ads.
Those motion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good with how it is right now, right? But what do I use AI for? ChatGPT, I use it for everything. Like, I'm using it right now when I'm trying to decide if I'm going to hire this person or this person.
That's interesting.
And I'm telling it to give me the full outcomes and responsibilities and then cross-check them. And it knows my company now because I spend so much time on it. And the tech stuff, I ask it, Blot Out does this, Instant does this. Is there crossover? Can you tell me what it is?
Yeah.
Right.
Really
and then I have Triple Whale also. Can you please show me how this would all work together? Am I just wanting new tech or is this all valuable? So I use it for that at the moment.
I think that I was listening to a podcast literally yesterday, Patrick Bet-David, PBD.
Yep.
He's a legend. There's a big trend there's a worry at like Google that ChatGPT and AI is actually becoming the new search.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Like even when you type into Google how to do this, it's like, I don't even know if you're telling me the right way.
Yeah.
I just trust that ChatGPT is going to scan the world.
It's a much more effective way.
Much more effective way. So I use it for search as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was looking for someone to come in and show me set up my warehouse correctly and make sure I was looking for a production facility consultant. Typed it in. This is what I'm doing. This is what we do. This is why we do it. This is the stage we're at. This is where I want to go to. You can't type that into Google, you know. And can you please tell me how to do this and what and when and who? We spoke. We went back and forth for, you know, a little bit. And then it gave me 3 companies within Sydney that are all specifically tailored at this.
Yeah.
Call them all, had a meeting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been in Google going, procedure place to help me with production.
It's
right.
It's become very outdated very quickly.
Yeah. And like I say, the team and I always laugh. It's like when I talk to ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, how are you? You know, what's going on? Just in case. And I see one of my other team, they're so short with it. I'm like, don't be so rude.
Yeah, I feel like it makes a difference, man. I feel like it makes a difference just in case, you know, you never know where things going. Hey, you've gone through all the different models you mentioned. You know, back in the day you had some not so good agencies and then you're like, you know what, screw this, I'm taking it in-house. You learned that, spent a lot of time with Jay, then figured out, hey, we're sort of doing things in our own way now anyway. We're going to look back at an agency. So you've been through all different outcomes, right? And all different experiences and ways to navigate it. From the experience you've got with the benefit of all the last couple of years and the ups and downs of every different thing that you've tried, what kinds of brands at what stages do you think are suitable to agencies and who should be doing it in-house?
Yeah. I think, again, learning it in-house is like the baseline, all right? Because you need to know, again, I'm just get obsessed with like wanting to know how things work. And if you don't care how things work, then you shouldn't care so much about the outcome, right? If you're not so like connected to it, then don't complain about the outcome.
But Adam, that takes so much time.
It takes so much time. Even if I was still at $1,000 a day in spend, so 30 grand a month, and say you're making, you know, 70 grand a month, and maybe you are with an agency at 70 grand a month, and you think it's impossible to leave them because you don't know it, and it's going to break if you take it over. Maybe this is better. You don't want to go too far without knowing it. Because then it is very hard to bring it back in-house.
Yeah.
So I was very nervous when I took it over.
Yeah.
I remember pressing the button.
But you're also obsessive.
Yeah.
And you dedicate yourself to it.
Dedicate myself to it. Pressed the button, was nervous as anything, and matched the agency's performance in the first 4 weeks. And realized, not to give but they weren't that good. So I was just better than not that good.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll take it.
Which was fine. And then why we went to Ecom Nation was because I had so much other things to grow the business for. Moving to London, production facility, all of these things. I obviously got good at it when I was doing it. And then the business was growing quickly and it was getting away from me, the rest of the business. Because I'm in the ad account all day long.
Yeah.
Right? So big problem. And then the question is, why don't you hire in-house? And the reason why I didn't hire in-house, because I still don't know it. How can I teach you to know it if I don't know it correctly yet? I've only learned it for a year. I've sort of like done it for a year. And then the other question will be, why don't you go and hire someone experienced at it? And the reason why I didn't do that was because I was worried. I now finally had the method down pat. If this person was going to come in with a different method that was a senior role, I would have had to tell them to go learn it from Jay anyway. So that's why I was like, well, now I'm going to be in the way here.
Yeah.
Right. So we went to a different agency first, who was actually inside EE, Maddie and the girls. They were awesome. And I think they did a great job. And I gave it to them because I knew they were going to do it the way that I knew how to do it. So I could manage it easily. And then I moved to Ecom Nation because it was just a bigger growth thing. And Paul is an advisor for me and it's his agency, and it was just all connected better that way. So I think where you should, when it starts to become a worry is if you think you have to bring it in-house and you're scared the business is going to fail if you bring it in-house, that's when you should bring it in-house. Because if you keep going down the agency route, your business is going to get bigger, which is good, but you're just never going to know it.
That's a really good point.
You're just never going to know it.
And for people starting off like completely day one, zero budget for anything,
Yeah.
where do you start?
Organic socials. Like if you want to start your business and start your brand, it's never been easier to scale organic socials than literally right in this moment. When we started, it was about followers. When you started, it was about followers. That was why influencers had such leverage. That's why we talk about creators more than we talk about influencers now. So day one, I would be just building organic social like crazy, organic TikTok like crazy, and I wouldn't be over leveraging myself on other parts of the business so that I could just build that organic social.
And then for some people, because I have conversations with like early stage ecom entrepreneurs all the time, and then obviously I'm talking about a subsection of them. Not everyone's the same. I don't want to generalize it. But you want to look even super early, like not even like maybe 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
On a good month, and they want an agency straight away. What's your message? Is like, do you think it's just too valuable to learn that skill yourself?
I think it's at that point, I would love to have learned it back then. At that point, do you need and again, there's creative people that don't think like me or you.
Yeah.
That aren't like those driven learners, which is fine. You should go to an agency at that point, but go to the right one.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of agencies out there. You know, listen to this podcast, go find the people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like there are good agencies.
What's the considerations if like someone goes and I'm going to have meetings with 3 agencies or 5 agencies?
Yeah.
Obviously there's a big criteria, but what's the main things people should look out for?
I would look out for like what their pricing structure is as like a minimum. So like most agencies, they take, depending on your spend, if you're at a low level of spend, like, you know, you're doing $10,000 a month in sales, you're spending $1,000 a month, they're just going to charge you a retainer, probably $2,000 a month retainer, maybe $1,500 a month retainer. You have to just put that into your budget. First of all, have budget. Put that into your budget because your marketing spend of $1,000 is now technically going to go to $2,500 because that spend is in there.
Yeah, that's built in.
So that's built in now. What else would I look for? Like, who are the brands they're working with? That's the biggest one. And are there brands your size or brands of size that you want to be? If you see someone and their portfolio says they do work for McDonald's and you're starting out, don't go there. Like, don't go there. If you see someone that's working with, you know, a brand that's relatively small-ish comparatively to McDonald's, and they've got 5 or 6 of these guys, then go there. And I would also reach out to the brands and ask them their opinion. People just go to the first one, they sign up, it's all good.
I remember years ago we were looking for a new agency and I went and had a lot of meetings and it was the same thing. They're pitching us Coca-Cola, all these big international brands. I'm like, how do you guys think this is a good pitch to me? It's like, it's completely irrelevant. It is completely irrelevant. So I think like that message of find people your size and kind of the tier or 2 above that you're looking to be.
Yeah.
And have you been able to see any growth trajectory out of them? Reach out to the brands. People will be willing to share, particularly if it's a bad experience.
Exactly.
They will be willing to share, right?
Yeah. Usually if it's really, really good, then they'll share obviously. And usually if it's really, really bad, they will share also. When you get these sort of flaky people in the middle, that's like, I probably wouldn't jump to those people.
Yeah.
But again, you need to ask, you know, who's in charge of managing the agency. Do they know what they're doing? Usually those smaller brands, it's the founder that's doing it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and what is it good? Like if you ask them, like, is it good with them? And they don't know what good is.
Yeah. Then
that's,
can't really take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What sort of focus does a brand at your size now, because considerable size and scale, do you put on some of the secondary or alternative platforms, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest? I'm talking about the paid platforms, not as in organic TikTok.
Google for us is like, it's a big one. Like we've seen such good results on there. TikTok, we've seen such good results from paid, both of them.
Yeah.
I want to spend way more money on Google because it just crushes it for us. And you just
What sort of campaigns are you doing on Google that are performing so well?
Well, It's PMAX campaigns, non-brand campaigns, search campaigns,
Shopping as well? Or?
shopping campaigns. We're also on Google competing with ourselves, with other retailers that are selling our product.
Your product.
Right. So when they go, it'll be much better. But for us, the main three is Google, Meta, Google, TikTok. Percentage of spend wise, 75% is on Meta, 20% and 5% on TikTok at the moment. But I want to spend more on TikTok. It's sort of hard to spend on there the way that it's set up. But TikTok is going to get better and better and better over the next 5 years.
And back to that agency piece, one question I'd love to ask, what do you think agencies could improve to better service ecom brands?
The secret sauce is the content engine, right? And I should just build a template and give it to everyone. But like, they need to know this is the content engine, guys. They should come with the onboarding. Hey guys, we've had an assessment of all of your socials. Thank you for letting us look into your Meta account. We can see the creatives that you're working on. We can see your SKUs and everything that you have. And I would visualize it like red and green, not made and made. And this big red board of creative that needs to be made. If they can manage that creative process with the founders and with the teams of the brands, like that's it. Like, spending on Meta is going to become this, like, anyone will be able to do it soon. Anyone can do it now, comparatively to 5, 6, 7 years ago. There's thousands and thousands more people doing the actual campaign structure set up on Meta.
Yeah.
That'll get better and better over time. But the winning thing is the creative. If agencies know how to get the best creative out of the brand, that's what'll win.
And do you like the idea of agencies that could understand, that provide some templates and a strategy for then you to go create, or the agencies that have the content production inside of the agency? Obviously, you're going to be looking at significantly increased costs.
Yeah.
But do you think there's a model out of the two that works better?
I think that the team in-house should be able to produce the content, especially in today's world when you can outsource graphics, UGC, you can do that.
Yeah.
And it does need to come from the founders or from the team. So if the agencies would show the plan for their engines and then really monitor it, it gives also the brand something to work on. That's not now they're just twiddling their thumbs, looking at the ROAS every day going, what's going on?
Yeah.
They can actually take ownership of how to actually improve the ad account.
Speaking of like ROAS, right? We spoke about some of like, ROAS, CPA. Those are the metrics everyone looks at. We don't have to go into details, all your different columns. But outside of those two, are there any metrics that you put more focus on than others?
I put focus on reach and frequency.
Yeah.
You can have high ROAS, but also high frequency, which means that an individual person is seeing your content 5 or 6 times, the frequency amount of times that they've seen it. And he's always saying you need to be going to new customers, new customers, new customers. So your top of funnel campaigns, if they're seeing like the frequencies at 3 or 4 or 5, then you're not really going to new people anymore. So you really want the reach to be at like 1, 1.2 all the time for new customers. You're spending money to get it. So the CPAs are higher. You're genuinely going to new people.
So what if you look at your ad account, you're like, okay, we got a really strong ROAS, but frequency's high.
Yeah.
It's sort of a ticking time bomb. You're not really going to be able to maintain that high ROAS with that high frequency for long.
That's right. You'll burn out.
What do you do to then make sure obviously goes back to the exclusions? What are you doing? How do you navigate out of that? What are you setting up to make sure we can hit those new customers?
Yeah, we need to find new customers, and whether that's organically or it's through the paid channels. Yeah. You need to I would look into your Advantage Plus customer cap. Maybe it's at 30%. I'd put it at 0.
Yeah.
And I would look into all of your interest campaigns to see how they're performing. Maybe the interest groups are just shitty groups. You're just always constantly trying to find new people.
Do you think with the rise of things like Advantage Plus and AI and the way the algorithms change, sometimes people think and they put too much reliance on that and they stop thinking about, how can we strategically do this ourselves now?
Yeah, 100%. And even now, this is one of those things because I've given it back to agency. It's not something that I can have too much input on, but obviously have good agency, they won't just turn on Advantage Plus and then close their eyes and shut their computer.
How often are you doing a touch base with them?
Twice a week.
Okay, twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah.
So you can ask Slack, the right questions.
Yeah, and on Slack like all day. So it's like they're in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to, as we start to move towards the end of the interview, I'd love to just get your, dig into some of your experiences and get your opinion on certain things. You've mentioned already a bunch of, you've built a network of amazingly talented people, some of the best in the business. Is there a piece of advice that you've heard over the last year or two that stands out?
Who did I speak to recently? I think what I've recently, I said it this morning to myself. It's like, need to take a longer outlook on progress. Progress is not going to happen by turning on a new app. It's not going to happen by switching to the Advantage Plus to a different one, right? I need to clip this up and just send it to everyone.
Yeah,
it's a long game, and don't make it too long. Don't say, 4 years, whatever. I look at like new tech, new implementation, content engine setup. Guys, this is a 12-month thing. And when you're in a fast-paced e-commerce environment, it's hard to focus on 12 months, 18 months. But right now, today, going into 2025, this new tech and everything that we've been talking about, like I'm looking at it like, how can we just improve this 1%, every month?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like, how do I improve every part of the business? Only 2%. I don't need to improve,
Yeah. I was having this conversation with Mel last week because we're doing a lot of new things and she's getting more involved. And, because we live in that ecom world where, you turn up, you put an ad in, you get sales straight away. It's in your Shopify, the dispatch next day, the cash is in your bank a few days later. We think, okay, we're in ecom. If I do something today, I should see the results later tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
So realistically, the work we're doing now, you can't control the results. All you can control is the output.
Yep.
The work you do today when you're working on something new, I say, let's talk about the results in 3 months.
Yeah. 100%.
Then you'll see your work, even though we're so conditioned to fast-paced society, everything is like at this scale is you need to build.
Yeah.
It's not like one ad that Jazz created. You could just put that one in and any ad account could spend $1 million on it or generate $1 million from it. It's not really the way it works. I think like that message is a really, really good one. Particularly you've got the benefit of a decade plus business experience to learn that.
Yeah.
People in their first year, second year, third year can get really disheartened by not seeing things. I'm doing all the right things. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Process, right?
It's a process. And look, I used to hate when people say it's a process. Just work, you know what I mean? Just stick it out. You'll be right. Just keep going. And now again, the benefit of hindsight and experience, I feel like, especially this year, a lot of decisions that I made 4 or 5 months ago, that even better, decisions I made 12 months ago that were quick in the moment decisions, we didn't see those effects, good or bad, for 4 or 5 months, 6 months later, 12 months later. So you really have to have this understanding of the things I'm going to do today. I'm going to see this in 12 months' time, good or bad. You can put $1,000 in your ad account, you can turn it to $10,000. You'll see a result immediately, but that's not building a business and building a brand and building a culture and building a team. You have to have this long-term look on all of it.
I think we need to have that long-term approach when we want to make changes in our personal life too.
Yeah, agree.
Right? We can all, because I don't know if we're thinking back to when we were a kid or when we just had no responsibilities, you decide you want to do something, make a change, life's sort of different. But when you've built this whole thing, you're not turning around a little like jet ski anymore. It's like, and when you've got commitments and you've got all these things you're working towards, it can't like expect to wake up one day and I've got a completely different life.
Yeah.
It's about having the awareness to set the goal, create a plan and stick to it and be like, I'm not going to judge myself today, next week, even next month.
Yeah.
Let's start, having a more longer term approach on things.
Yeah. And then you will wake up in 12 months time and you will have changed.
Yeah. And then you're that overnight success, right?
But it's 12 months at least. So
exactly.
I think and I actually try to visualize myself in that 12-month moment, 18-month moment, spend time there and actually feel what it's like there. Look in the details of that moment,
You've got a big life change coming up, moving to literally the other side of the planet next year. What's one area of your life that you want to level up? Like you've consciously have a thought about, I want to level this part of my life up next year.
For me, next year, it's about like this more holistic view on my health. And it's a 12-month thing.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it 12 months? The start of it's 12 months. But this year I did 75 hard in April or May or whatever. And it was great. Train twice a day. You do all this stuff. You're this like weapon of a person. So focused, so energized.
Did you feel really sharp while you were doing that?
Very sharp, like so dialed in. And then I was, in the moment, in that time, I was like, I'm not going to drink again. I'm not going to, I'm going to train every day for the rest of my life. And this is my new me now. And that's just not my reality, and some people go on and continue to do it, but it wasn't for me. Mm. And I was always like worried I was going to live this yo-yo life. And when I sort of think about it, I do live this yo-yo life. And that's what being a founder and a CEO is. It's not always balanced. But what I realized was me doing 75 hard and then me not doing 75 hard, it was actually this balance of full send health to almost the other way of eat whatever I wanted, not sleeping like I would normally, no training. And I sort of did that balancing effect of this high to this low.
Yeah.
And it took me, I realized it. And I'm like, I want to go back to that 75 hard feeling. I want to be in that focus again. But I'm like, no, you can't go back there because you're going to starve yourself of things that you actually really appreciate in life.
Yeah.
So next year, or starting probably, next 2 weeks before I go, I'm looking at this like holistic view on train 4 or 5 days a week, eat healthy, have a beer, have a drink, but don't be excessive.
Yep.
So that's like next year for me is like it, and it's actually more disciplined for me. I could do 75 hard, start tomorrow easy. Can I maintain a lifestyle? I think it's harder. It takes more discipline to maintain this like better lifestyle over a long period of time than it is to just do 75 hard.
But you got to have the mental awareness and self-awareness that even within that lifestyle, maybe the roller coaster isn't as high, but there's still going to be ups and downs within that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're still, living in alignment with that new mission you created, I think it's fine. But to take away the judgment, because we're always our own worst critic.
Yeah. And I think it's important that, and I told this to my mate the other day, it really clicked for him. The ups and downs, if you're listening, you won't be able to see it, but the ups, the downs, and then up again, the next down is higher than the previous low. So it's a higher low, which means you're growing.
Yep.
So if you go up again and come back down again, as long as you've learned and your next low is higher than your previous low, then you're growing.
But sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't realize that you're higher than the previous low, and it gets you down. But if you can just zoom out a little bit, I think it does you the world of good.
Yeah.
What's your biggest lesson you're taking away from 2024, business or personal?
I think business-wise, like structure is like everything. And I'm not going to be this loose, not that I was, but 2024 for us was painful because we made bad decisions. 2025 is going to be much better because of the time we're going to spend taking these decisions longer and also looking at these decisions at a much longer time frame versus this short-term approach. And myself personally, like I'm actually proud I got through this year. Like I there was times where I was like, fuck man, this is as hard as it's ever been. And now this is why I wanted to do this podcast later through Black Friday, because I was never had anxiety, never had stress before, like crippling pain before from, mental stress. And this year I felt like I've been in that for a long time. And I got out of it because of the decisions I made, the teamwork that we did, the things that we made. I'm generally just like happy for myself and my team that we did it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I think, I can definitely relate to that. It always is in business. I don't think you're ever going to have a full cruise year, right?
No.
A year's a long time. A lot happens. And I think it goes back to that previous point when you're in those situations and you're playing at these sorts of levels.
Yeah.
Fixes don't come in a day or a week. It's like, okay, fuck, I've got to lock myself in for 3 months of this stuff and I've got to be okay with it and just get through it.
Yep.
And then know if you make the right decisions and you put the right work in, you'll come through the other side. Yeah. And then I think something else that is freeing is like, what happens if it all goes wrong, and being okay with that. And like I always give this like, who is a millionaire, who wants to be a millionaire analogy, where it's like, set yourself up as like, if everything does go wrong, you're not going back to zero. Like that, the last analogy, you're falling back to here. And then it's like, well, compare that to where I started. I would have killed to be there 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Agree.
So it's all okay. And one mistake that you've made looking at the year, if you could undo it, what would it be? And what would you do differently?
Easily this year, the biggest mistake we made was taking on short-term finance. Like the biggest mistake we could make. And for reasons of wholesale, and I won't go into it, but when Shopify sends you an email and says, hey, we'll give you $700,000, just click a button. And you've got this pain and you're trying to figure things out and you accept those things, it's almost like a death sentence. The biggest lesson I learned from it was that there are so many other ways to access money if you need it that is not short-term finance. So I wish we never did it. We got through it. I learned how to be a CFO this year, but I learned not from level 1, I learned from like minus level 12. I had to come all the way up from down there to get to this place. And again, I'm glad that I went through it, because next year and the following years, I'm so dialed in to how to access capital if you need it, but I'm also dialed into how to make my business make me money. Short-term finance is the worst possible thing you can do.
It's really good advice. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many people love you and Raquel, because you're a business at this level doing really crazy things. And a lot of founders doing that will just be like, everything is rosy, everything is all good, all sweet. There's never any challenges, there's never any days that, that you guys are stressed and you lay in bed and you can't sleep and you're anxious about how are we going to get out of this situation? What are we going to do? And everyone else is going through it, and big and small. So it's really cool to hear stories, and just like, you always come out the other side of these biggest challenges better than you were before. So embrace them. I know it's hard. I know sometimes they're prolonged periods and you're like, just get through it. But they're making you who you are, the character defining. So I really appreciate you, bro, coming in. We could have easily, it's an hour 40. We could have got another hour, but we'll wrap up. I know you're a very busy man. We'll do another one, whether it's here, if you're here, end of next year, or we're over there, we'll do another one. We got to keep these yearly catch-ups. Really love it. Good luck with the move to the UK. I'll be watching, as I always am. Appreciate you, bro. And thank you. I think this is one of the best podcasts we've ever done. So appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers, brother. Legend.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them, and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.